Well, hello guys, it's me, Fraser, again. I decided to take the old ATR72 out for a flight with the lovely Loganair livery. Going to be doing a flight from Glasgow all the way up to the Shetland Islands in Sumburgh, if that's how you pronounce it correctly. I hope so. Yeah, we're going to do a flight up there, your typical ATR72 flight up to the Shetland Islands. I might just adjust the time a bit just so it's do a nice sort of like daytime flight. So we'll get in and we'll try this plane out. I've flown it. I got it when it first came out. It had lots of bugs, as we all know if you've flown the ATR, but yeah, we'll take this plane out for a spin and see what it's all about. Not too sure which runway we're going to be landing on today, but we'll suss that out when we get near our destination. But yeah, here's the ATR72, built by Aerosoft / Asobo. We'll get in here and we'll open up all of the doors and we'll power it on, and yeah, we'll get this plane up and running. So basically it's very simple. You just sort of scroll up with your mouse to turn on the battery, wait for it just to go through its different startup things. Once that last T sort of disappears, we can engage the ground power unit. I will do it now, We'll get the ground power unit up and running. Turn on our navigation lights and our logo lights, and we'll get these lights nice and bright. And we will import our flight plan from Sumburgh. What we'll do is we'll just go through what I remember from my tutorials that I learnt online. So we'll go to the data, go to init, position init, copy that, and then you click on this one to get the navigation up and running. We'll do our flight plan A. We'll just do, you can upload it by clicking set flight plan, but sometimes it doesn't work like it should do. We'll see what happens when we... Now let's go through and try and do this the old school way. So what I'll do is, instead of turning my head all the time, I'll get this Sumburgh flight plan from here. So we are going to be going from Glasgow to Sumburgh, so that's EGPF / EGPB. And our flight ID, I think that's what you put into here, so it's going to be just random, just made it up. Got the flight, the actual airline's call sign, Loganair 21. Execute. This is just like when I was going back to you guys with the setting up the SMS, the SM, is that the SMS? This page, this FMS, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, it's all very like straightforward through most of the airlines. It's just all all has the same sort of pattern slash flow. We'll put in our flight plan, so we're going to be, our departure will be runway 05, so we go to click on the departure airport, taking off from runway 05. We're going to be using this departure here, which will be on the next page. Execute, and then from this waypoint here we click on the airway, and that should bring up the airway P600, and then you can just click on here and it should bring up the waypoints that flight path touches. So we'll look for ADN, which we just go through these pages until we find it. Here we go, ADN. And we're just going to go execute because we're going to do a direct flight plan, direct flight path from ADN to Pet Ox. Then from Pet Ox we're going to go to Waffle. And then just click it on where the discontinuity is. And then our next flight, our next destination is the airport, so we can just leave it as that. And then there's a lot of, I haven't done it since it's been updated, but apparently you don't want to set your fuel and your payload by clicking on these. Apparently it's a bit buggy and it won't draw the correct fuel and whatnot. Very buggy apparently. So what we will do is we'll just go to a Sumburgh flight plan, and we'll just enter in the the data raw, as it were. We'll just go to our weight and balance, which you hardly use on aircraft unless it's a bit buggy. So our fuel that we want to use is, we'll make that 2.3 or thereabouts. Actually, we'll just leave it like that because that's enough fuel. And then our estimated zero fuel weight is, actually we're going to use our estimated takeoff fuel. Our estimated takeoff weight is going to be 227. Get that. So that's just a little bit over, but also too we've got enough fuel, so that's what we need to do. And then up here we will scroll in our cruising altitude, which is going to be 17,000 feet. So we'll push the magic bean numbers just to sync the it must be 10-13 out there, so that must be correct. So we'll just scroll the altitude up to 17,000 feet, and you'll see what I'm going to have to do next. Scroll, 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 scroll. We've got 17,000 feet there, and now we go into back to data, go to the init page, perf init. So that's in, you can see you'll see what I mean when I enter in, you enter in the altitude again into this page, so that goes off what you set, and then you just confirm it by entering it in here one more time, and it should go into bold like that. So that means that's all done. Now the weights, we just enter this manually. So we've got 2550 fuel on board, and then you want to enter your 0 fuel weight. So you just going to get the calculator out. So that's 2217. Oh. 22713, take away, you probably can't see my calculator, minus 2550, and our 0 fuel weight's going to be 2163, so we enter 2163, and that should give us the correct reading there, so that matches up. And our reserve fuel is going to be, we'll make it, where is it? I did see it somewhere else. Oh, it must just be that. So yeah, that we've got an extra 200 kgs of fuel on board because we just started with. So I'll leave it relatively, sort of leave it at that. So that's the performance page basically done. And go to perf. Our trans altitude, you can enter that into here now. So our trans altitude is going to be 6,000 feet. Go to the next page, and then you just add this data in thereabouts. Some airports have this function where you can just see the weather, so this does. So trans altitude, as we know, is going to be 6,000. QNH is going to be 1017. And our wind / gust, it's going to be, well, it's going to be a very windy day up there, /3, we'll just make a random number. We'll make it 30 because it's such a windy day. That's probably within the realms of normal. While we're at it, we'll just make sure our QNH here is correct. So our, oh yeah, it is 1013. That's quite cool. So that's set. We've already done that. Don't really have to do much in here, I don't think. But yeah, that's our perf init all done. That's pretty much our flight plan all sorted. We'll figure out when we get closer to the airport which arrival we're going to use. So we can now get rid of this fuel payload. And we can now just do this like checklist thing. So we've done the parking brake, altimeters is set, landing altitude is set. We've done that. We've programmed the FMS. Fuel quantity has all been done, which is shown up here. Go to this page, we just want to reset our fuel and then confirm our takeoff data, which sets this all up. Make sure that's set to take off. Oh, that's not good. Anyway, we'll come onto this page. We'll click this magic dot and we want to set our trim to 0.8 up. So once this loads up again, we'll set our takeoff trim. Well, that's doing that. We can just get one more photo for my thumbnail. Hopefully this might be a good thumbnail here. We might as well close up the doors actually. We're all set to go. We'll engage the take away the wheel. Oh no, we'll keep we'll keep the wheel chocks in place just for this moment. Set our takeoff trim to 0.8. Done. That's sorted. Go through these again. Turn on our seatbelt signs and no devices, arm the emergency exits, and we are pretty much that's just the window heat, just have that going. We're pretty much ready to go. So what we can do is we can turn on the beaker light. We're going to use the hotel mode, so if we come back here a bit, we can turn on both of our fuel pumps. We'll set this to both A and B. Push this little hydraulic button just to make sure the hydraulics are temporarily pumped in, and we can now start our hotel mode, engine number 2. Once it gets in above 10, we can introduce fuel, just keep it to idle flight condition level. And then we just wait for it to get into the green band, and that is yeah, that shows that we've got power to the aircraft now, so we can now, one thing we will do is we'll just set our page to this, and we will, I've got these set to auto. Push this little magic button here, that gets our, the UK is different, because in New Zealand, where I've do a lot of flying with Microsoft Flight Simulator, like all of the airports have their own like VORs and whatnot, whereas I find particularly in the UK, the VORs are not at the airports, so I don't know how relevant that is, but that's that done. We'll just put this flight plan, set this page to the flight plan page. That's what we, then we want to, what we do want to do is select the runway heading. So this Navigraph things has gone a bit silly, so I'll just reset it. While we are waiting, we can sort of roughly set what we expect it to be. So it's runway 05, so you can just scroll it to runway 05. And the actual runway heading is 49. And what we can do is just, in case we have to go around, we will set the we'll find Glasgow's approach for runway for the ILS 05, and we will just put this frequency in just in case we need to go around. So we'll in the standby we'll put 11. Oh. And then we'll just go to our course option. We'll just select 38 for our course. This is what I learned in tutorial that I watched. So I just set our course, as you can see here. In true Aerosoft fashion, it's a bit hard to read, but we'll set it to 48 just in case we have to go around. That's that done. That's pretty much all the setup. What we will do is we'll go to this overlay, we'll change it to terrain. We'll select airports so we can see the airports and nav aids, because just in case we need them. Traffic, we want to set that to above so it picks up the traffic above us. And go to this surveillance page, we want to turn on our TCAS. That's set to auto, but our transponder is now set, so we're pretty much ready to go. What we will do is we will select heading, and then we'll select our nav, and then we push IA, select indicated airspeed, and then we select VNAV, and that's all set up. And then we'll just push this button here to set our, that engages the IAS bug when we're in autopilot mode. So we are now ready to push back. we'll disconnect the ground power, remove that, remove the chocks, and we can now push back. Turn on our beacon light, that's on anyway, and we can start our pushback. It's a bit weird at the moment, which is annoying, but I have no idea why this happens. It happens now and again when I use this pushback tool. It's one of those silly bugs that happens now and again in Flight Simulator. Around this stage they'll start engine number 2. So wait for it to spool up. Then engage the fuel. We'll get rid of this. This is going a bit silly. Turn on the handbrake, release the tug. And we basically once everything's all clear, we can disengage the hotel mode. So you push this little button here, come up here, release the prop brake, and that should turn on the propellers, and we can change this back to the off position. Then you just put some throttle up, turn on this little button here, and flick this into auto. That's what you need to do, flick into auto, set flaps for takeoff. And once these warning lights go out, yeah, that lets you know it's all engaged. Disengage the parking brake, and now we can turn on our taxi light. And we are pretty much all set to go. By the way, if I don't know where there's oh, I've lost it now. I found one. Oh yeah, this is where you engage your nose steering when you're when you're getting pushback. But it doesn't really do much, I don't think. And if you're feeling hot, you can open this up. Don't forget to shut this door before takeoff, which I've done many times. And we are pretty much, make sure our takeoff config is confirmed by pushing this little button. No warnings sounds mean it's set to go. Yep. Going to be taking off from runway 05, so back this way. Yeah, this is Glasgow Airport. I've flown out of this airport many times as a passenger. It is actually a really nice airport. It does have a few criticisms, but I do find it a nice and quiet airport to fly out of versus Edinburgh, which can be quite hectic and busy, but no, it's a nice airport, and this is a nice pay-where scenery that I've got. Good graphics. I might just throttle back a bit. It's getting a bit too fast. What we might do is, because it's a strong headwind and we are in a little prop airline, we might as well use not this one but the next. Don't need to use the full length today. We'll just do our pre-takeoff. I've done this so many times I just flick through that just so it's done. What I will do is we'll do a PAX takeoff, PAX off takeoff, so just turn these PAX off. It really does get away on you when you're not paying attention. Turn on our strobe, landing lights, and then we can now line up for the runway. Make sure you disengage this gust lock. Done that many a times. I have seen planes use this. I've actually seen the E195 take off from this taxiway. It was a KLM. That was a big surprise seeing that once when I was at the airport waiting for my flight. And it literally looked like everything happened in slow motion watching that take off. It just sort of, yeah, it was quite interesting. Anyway, we just go straight to that little white detent there with the throttles. Release the parking brake, and away we go. A slight crosswind, so we'll compensate for that with a bit of a left rudder and a bit of right aileron. Can now pull back, gear up, and away we go. Now starting to climb up over the Clyde. I might have just engaged the autopilot now. Flying over the it's a very windy day in Glasgow here. A nice day in Glasgow actually. Might as well raise our, what we can do is go manual and just get the speed bug just above the flap setting. Raise the flaps, engage auto climb function. And once we've sort of climbed a bit more, what we will do is we'll turn on the weather radar. So we just flick this up to WX, click on the nav button, come to the overlay button, and then engage our, that's how you turn on the weather radar. I do miss my time in Glasgow. It's definitely a really cool city to live in. It is a really cool city. I really like Glasgow. The Glaswegians can be a bit rough around the edges, but they're really lovely people. Right, we're going to now set this to the power to climb. You can hear it powering down, and then it will lower the nose, and then it will start reaching this target speed, so we can go through this checklist. Gear and flaps are up. That's set to climb. We can now re-engage the PAX. Better turn on all of the that's a sign that it's icing, so we can turn on all of these. I think this is what you turn on. I have no idea, but they all seem to light up nice and blue, so that's all on. And we'll just wait till we climb out a bit more before we complete this checklist. I might just speed it up just a little bit. This is a bug, but as soon as you push this button here, we set it to standard. What we can do is we can override that altitude restriction. We'll just click on here and we'll just go 17,000 feet. And that override that speed restriction, that altitude restriction. Your very classic UK/Scottish weather this is. We might as well just turn off our landing lights now and our taxi lights. Don't need our logo lights. We can, no device, turn off the seatbelt sign, and then we can complete this checklist. And that is us climbing out to our cruise altitude. And that's all there is to it, flying this ATR, if you're just doing it really simple terms like I am. Flying out over Stirling here. This is very famous for the William Wallace Monument and the Stirling Castle, which is down here somewhere. Really lovely little town as well. That must be the castle down there. It's on a hill there, and the William Wallace Memorial must be around here somewhere. Definitely miss the Scottish, there it is, just down there, the William Wallace Memorial, the famous freedom fighter. So yeah, climbing out of Glasgow, getting above the clouds now, we could almost look to turning off all of these anti-icing buttons. It's almost like flying an Airbus, really. It's almost literally, it's just, that's almost virtually an auto throttle, and you just, that setting there is basically auto throttle, and you just let it do its thing. It's quite a straightforward aircraft to fly. It's still got the you adjust the heading thing like you do it on doing an Airbus plane, but apart from that, it's almost like flying an Airbus aircraft, really. And now we're coming up to our cruise altitude. The last thing you need to do is just set this button to cruise, and the plane should just sit at that speed and sit at that altitude, and that's all you have to do. And now I'm going to figure out which runway I'm going to land on. Just going to have a look on flight radar and see which runway the last flight used. Just having a look at flight radar now, and there is a plane that's about to depart in real life, so I'll see where this Loganair, it's a freight flight, we'll just see where this, it looks like it's backtracking on runway 09, so we will use runway 09, and I thought we will use I would like to do a VOR flight, because I've done many of these with the ATR, but I want to do a RNAV approach. So we'll do an RNAV approach because there is a bug that you need to be aware of when doing the RNAV. So and a workaround for that bug. So we're going to use the RNAV approach for this flight, and we will do a turnaround flight. So we'll go back. We'll do another flight just to show you how this workaround works for this bug that does happen. But yeah, flying over the beautiful highlands here. Inverness must be coming up somewhere around here. Well, that's not the highlands. I think that's that is something different, isn't it? That's another famous sort of like outdoor area. Lots of hikes and stuff in Scotland around this area here. Right, we'll set this plane up for, we're going to land on runway 09, so we'll set this up into here. So you just go to the destination airport, select that, and we're going to use the RNAV runway 09. I'm going to select the VIA octet, so I'll select that, execute, and then I believe you just click on this. Oh no, it doesn't work like that. So you just push the clear button, clear this discontinuity, then you hit execute, and then that's the flight plan all set. So that's all you have to do. And what we can do is we can set our minimums for this approach that we're going to do. Which is 630 feet. done, and then we just wait till we get closer to our top of descent. Then we can dial the altitude back to 2100 feet, and we'll go outside and we'll speed it up and we'll enjoy the view. So just a few tips. So this is not a touch screen, but if you want to control it manually, I think it's these buttons down here that in real life would. So example, if that selects your bearings, your VOR, whatever you got tuned in this 1 and 2 does these two. This bit here controls that bit. This changes the format. This increases and decreases the range. These are the buttons that you'd push in real life to change the screens around, but just for ease, they've done a really good job in making this like effectively a touch screen, so that zooms in, zooms out. If you click over here, this changes the display. If you click on the bottom left, this is your performance page where you reset your fuel and set your takeoff, confirm your takeoff data. Then I think if you click here, I don't know what this one does, this must be like for the maps. And this is your engine page that shows you the power, and if you click it again, it just goes through this engine page. And then you just click back up here to take it back to the map page. So yeah, it's not touchscreen, but they've made it a touchscreen, which just makes it just does a good job for making it easier, user-friendly, because in real life you'd be able to like look up here, then like you would in a car when you're using the indicators and whatnot, you'd be able to like you'd memorize where the buttons are, then you just click on the respective buttons that you want. Yeah, through its bugs, some of its bugs, and just because it hasn't been really properly fixed as such, this plane can be a bit of a pain in the backside when you fly it. There are some airports when you're on a SID, like a departure, and you engage the autopilot, and then it will just like turn back on itself. So there's particularly when you're flying out of Christchurch, there's a bug where you're departing out on a SID, and then it just halfway through it does this big U-turn back to the airport, which is really frustrating. So the turnaround, the workaround is just using making sure your altitude is set at all times to your direction, and when it starts to veer off path, you just quickly engage the heading, and then you just fly out the fly this track manually, and it'll get to a point where it'll go to the next waypoint, and then you can re-engage the nav mode, and it should look after itself. But yeah, for its faults, it is an enjoyable aircraft. I do really enjoy flying it. I enjoy flying, like, as you know, I'm from New Zealand, so I enjoy flying the Air New Zealand routes, because Air New Zealand has a fleet of 30 of these aircraft. So yeah, I do enjoy flying this. It's a really lovely aircraft. What we'll make sure is I'll just slow it down a bit. I'll just make sure where we are actually going. So we actually don't want to go to that waffle waypoint, so we're just gonna clear that waypoint. So just gonna go clear that, execute, and that will take us direct to that oak deck waypoint, which is the beginning of our star, so that's perfect. And this will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if this, like with Aerosoft's aircraft, like the CRJ, I find when you sort of fiddle around with this too much, you end up with problems with the FMS. It can be a nightmare, and sometimes it pays not to like if you want to change your departure. I do not know how to change your departure. It gives you no option to change your arrival and whatnot. There are a few, I'm not too sure if that's real life, but yeah, there are a few bugs here. If you're doing this plane, make sure the arrival that you want is the arrival that you want, because if you change it, it's, I mean, I don't know how to change it. It's, yeah, one of those little bugs with these Aerosoft aircraft. They're not, what's the word I'm looking for? There are bugs that when they do present themselves, it just makes the experience not enjoyable. Like, yeah, if I was to change my arrival right now, I don't know how to go about doing that. So yeah, I love flying it. It's cool to have a turboprop, because as we all know, there's only one turboprop, and this is it, of this scale, of this magnitude, until someone releases the Dash 8, or I mean the SAB 340 in its current state, I believe, is not that great, but we'll speed this up anyway. No, for what it's worth, it is if you can find your way around through the bugs and whatnot, it's nice to be able to do this sort of flying on real life routes. So when we get to within, if you decrease the altitude now, that you'll wreck the top of descent, so you want to wait for that top of descent marker to get at least on the 5 nautical miles before you can start winding it down. And this is another bug that this can work many times. Other times it's got a little trick that you need to perform to get it working, but we'll see what happens when we get to our top of descent. Which should be coming up soon. There it is. Now we can start, once it gets around about the 5 to 6 nautical mile ring, we can wind this down to our 2100, which is what our final approach is. Yeah, we can start. See, this is a little bug. It shouldn't really do this, which is annoying, but and then we have to push VNAV again to engage VNAV path, which is, I'm not too sure if that's what happens in real life, but it is a bit of a, like other times it'll hit that top of descent and it'll follow it perfectly. Other times you have to click that again to get it Yeah, it's a bit fiddly, this aircraft, but like it will frustrate the hell out of you if you like perfection and you hate, what's the word I'm looking for? If you hate inconsistency, this aircraft would not be for you. If you hate inconsistency, this aircraft is certainly not for you, but I do believe in real life this aircraft can be quite a temperamental thing to fly. But if you look beyond that, I'll show you a few fixes and whatnot to make this more enjoyable. This aircraft is actually a lot of fun to fly. We can now go through this. We've got our landing elevation set, which is automatic. We've gone through our, whatever that page is. That's pretty much set, you can't really adjust that, but that's all set. Set our decision altitude, done our arrival briefing. We can turn on our seatbelt signs now, no devices. We can do our landing lights and engage our taxi lights, which will be the next checklist. We'll decrease the sim rate. Landing lights, well, we'll just push the magic B button, eh? To do that we have to just adjust this and then push B, and that's set to our burrow, which is, I mean our altimeters, what is it actually? We can just increase that too. So this is another bug. This is set, but you cannot, that's stuck on ST standard for the rest of your flight, so that's a shame. So you can do countless legs and that will be stuck like that, so that's another little bug you just have to bear in mind. Can sort of decrease our throttle now, get that to match that speed restriction there. Cabin altitude is, I think, I don't know where that is, but, and that's that for that checklist. We'll just increase the speed a little bit again. And because there's no significant weather, we can go into the nav button, we can use the imaginary touchscreen and we can change that back to terrain, and we can turn off the weather radar, and should have set the traffic to below, but that's okay, this is not real life. I like to just set this to surveillance because I find if you, another annoying bug, like you cannot be touching anything in here, but these values can change by clicking elsewhere, which is a bit of a bug as well. But changing to surveillance, that means you've got no ability to touch something you shouldn't. And I'm not too sure if we should be turning on our, I've heard that ATRs are very prominent, are very susceptible to icing, so we should probably turn on the icing since we're going through that cloud. Lots of air crash investigations with the ATRs regarding icing issues, so yeah, we're pretty much on track there. 21, 21, 21, so by the time we get to that marker there, you can see the little blue line there, that means we'll be hitting 2100 feet before that final approach fix, which is what we want. And this is a little bug I'm going to show you. So we're basically on our RNP approach now. So what I found now, I'm going to scroll this down to 600 feet, which is our go around altitude. Usually I think you are supposed to push approach, but you'll get this annoying VPF button that's stuck there for the rest of the life until you reset the game. So this is a little bug. That's probably the biggest bug this aircraft has, is if you click approach, which I think in real life is what you do, you'll have this annoying I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's a bug that will never disappear for the life of the flight. We can now lower the landing gear, lower the flaps. we're now below the that speed, so we can oh no, we're not. I want to just sort of keep the speed up just a little bit, just to make this a bit more faster, this bit here. Coming into the Shetland Islands, which is a destination and definitely is on my bucket list. You definitely are a remote, isolated part of the world out here, exposed to the elements. And we can start decreasing our speed now, get that speed below, that's the flap, the last flap setting. And then we can now put these to full power. These are like effective, I'm not too sure if it's simulated in the game, but that increases a bit more drag and gives you more power, so if you have to go around you can full throttle, and that just, it's like the real low gear on your bike when you're going up the hill. So we're below that speed now, we can lower the last stage of flaps, we can go through and click on all of these checklists, we can switch that back to takeoff power, and I think there's not much moisture in the air, we can turn off these anti-ice buttons just for extra power. Landing lights are on, everything's all ready for our departure. And now we can quickly scroll up. What's our go around altitude is 3,000 feet. So if we scroll up to 3,000 feet, then push the VNAV path again, and that keeps it back on the VNAV path. Well, it should do. You just have to push it again and it will go back onto VNAV path, it should do. It used to do this. Well, it doesn't seem to be wanting to do that anymore. That trick did work, but unfortunately didn't, so I'll just scroll all the way down. So if all else fails, just set this to your minimum altitude. We can actually send that to ground level because the sea level, because it is basically at sea level. I might try that one more time actually. I'll just see if it works one more time. I'll just scroll up. It did work once. Yeah, see, it's working now. Send that to 3,000 feet. So that's the workaround for the doing a RNP approach. You want to not touch that approach button and just, yeah. I'm going to disengage the autopilot now. This is going to be interesting. This is a severe crosswind. Disengage the yaw dampener.
Approaching minimum.
Coming into land, we'll get that Pappy.
Minimum. 500.
Landing at the stormy, desolate islands of the Shetland Islands.
$100. 40, 30, 20, 10.
Oh. That. It's probably the only limitation of this game is, yeah, those crosswinds. Surely the ATR can do that in real life. Got no idea, but yeah, maybe that was a bit too strong crosswind for this girl. But here we are, we're We've now arrived into Sumburgh, I think that's how you pronounce it. And we can now start our backtrack to the gate. And I'm not too sure we should go after this. A little part of me wants to do London City actually, so we might do that. But yeah, I think when we take off, we'll take off from the cross runway there. I don't think they use that too much for these aircraft in real life, but what we will do is we'll turn the gust lock on because we don't want the wind to break our aircraft. Take this down to auto. Just go through this checklist. There's nothing really need to do. We'll just clear it because it's a one-man team, but we can turn off the probes. We can turn off this TRU. Flaps can now come up. Can now use this taxiway and taxi into stand. Strobe, landing lights, and we might as well turn off our taxi lights. And here we are in the Shetland Islands. Next time when that's like that, I'll probably use that crosswind runway. I'm sure they use that in real life as well. Definitely will use it for our takeoff. And because we're a hard Scottish pilot, we can open up this and have our hand out the window because we're too hot. 4 degrees is far too hot. And we'll just taxi up to the stand here, not this one, the next one. And we can take this down to that setting there, which is idle. And this is the annoying thing about the ATR, like when you watch so many videos it does the single engine taxi very well, but some reason it's very limited in this game. And if you don't do it correctly, you end up pulling towards the engine that's powered on, which is, yeah. It's definitely an aircraft with its perks, but with its quirks I should say, not perks, but if you look beyond its quirks, it's fun to fly. But if you hate inconsistency, when other days you can do this alright, other days it won't work alright, like I say, this plane can be a bit of a frustration more than anything. See, like, this is the most frustrating part, is like, this happens in real life, but for some reason it's struggling unless it doesn't happen in real life, but yeah. Alright, we're just going to be like that, I guess, so we can shut down this engine here, take this down to idle, we can engage the hydraulic pump, stop this engine here, and we can now turn the plane off, and we will do a turnaround flight back to let's pretend we're doing a flight to London City, eh? Let's see how far I can push this laptop that I'm on, but we're just going to do use the hotel to keep our aircraft powered. This is another bug too that can happen, is sometimes when you engage, you have to really keep an eye on this page when this main battery starts dropping. Sometimes you'll engage the external power, you'll have it all done, and some days that it won't work and this will drain, and then you have to reset the whole, especially if you've had the plan on doing a whole lot of flights in one session. Like if that battery drops, your game is pretty much ruined. So that's another thing to keep an eye out on, is when you've got the ground power unit plugged in and you've got this engaged, just be aware that sometimes it doesn't work and this battery will drain out, and once it drains out, it's game over. Right, so I'm just going to pause this for now, and we will... Actually, I might do it as a separate flight, so I'll just stop this video and we'll do a return flight to London City, eh? We'll see you back very soon.